All right, welcome back everybody. This is Drew, or some people call me the knee pain magician. So in this week's video, we're going to be focusing on shoe wear for active people struggling with chronic knee pain. All right, so unless you've been hiding under a rock for, let's say, maybe the past 5 or 10 years, you may have noticed that thick-soled shoes are all the rage these days. So I brought a shoe to demonstrate. Ideally, I wanted to have a pair of Hoka tennis shoes because that seems to be really popular, especially amongst people who have knee pain and they're looking for different shoes to wear to make them feel better. But this pair of New Balance is a good demonstration of the problem that we're going to talk about today. So what's the problem? Well, to start with, look at this thick sole, this massive white piece of foam right here. It's like at least an inch thick. So not only that, but you can see the forefoot, right, where your toe box is also fairly narrow. Look at the bottom of the shoe, and that's not exactly how your foot probably looks like when you make a footprint on the ground, right? It's a little bit different. In addition to this massively thick sole, that's kind of like walking with a brick on the bottom of your foot, it also hardly has any bend at all, right? It's super stiff. Not a lot of rotation. I can't really bend it. And unfortunately, these shoes, or shoes like these, Hokas in particular, are oftentimes pushed by people in my field, sports medicine, rehab, physios, personal trainers, really popular in our culture now. And they're pushed as a solution for people struggling with chronic knee pain. So today we're going to be looking at why that's a problem and some of the shoes and things you could do with your feet to rehab and give you a better fundamental solution. So one of the big problems with wearing very thick restrictive shoes like this, it's as if you're putting your foot inside of a cast. So if you've ever broken your arm per se and you've had to wear a cast for a long time, you'll notice that after the 3 months or so when you remove the cast, that arm has lost all of the muscle definition and strength. And in comparison to the other arm, right, there's a huge difference, right? So that was a massive period of atrophy where those muscles, that soft tissue, no longer had to do any work. When you wear shoes like this, it's as if you're putting your foot inside of a cast. So in order to have good, strong, stable, pain-free knees, you need to have healthy feet that are also mobile. So to do that, you need shoes that allow you to move your feet as they were designed to. You need to be able to feel the ground. You need to be able to move your joints. And the muscles and soft tissues in and around your feet need to have that activation so they can build strength and resiliency. Another key thing that isn't talked about enough is this idea of proprioception, right? Proprioception is body awareness, brain-body awareness. And when you move the joints in your foot and ankle, it gives your brain more confidence about movement. Where is my foot moving? Do I have awareness of where my body is in space? And if your joints are really stiff and lack mobility, which tends to happen when you wear really thick conforming shoes, your brain feels like, oh, wait, I don't really have full awareness of where I'm moving. I can't quite feel my foot and ankle. And as a consequence of that, you're going to have more pain, more stiffness, lack of stability when you move, and even less strength. So having proper mobility within your toes, many joints in your feet and ankle are critical to having pain-free knees. Okay, so what's a contrast, the opposite of wearing really thick conforming shoes? Well, minimalist shoes like this. So there's a whole bunch of minimal shoes out there. These are called Vivo Barefoot. I'm not pushing them in particular. There's a brand called Merrell or Lems or Zero Shoes. There's many different brands, but the concept is what's important for you to understand. So in contrast to the thick-soled shoes, when you wear minimal shoes, it allows your feet to become stronger, more mobile, and therefore your knee, the joint right above your foot and ankle, is going to feel a lot better. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you look at this shoe, right, and think about the previous shoe we're looking at, this one is very flat. It's called zero drop. So there's not a big arch to your heel when you're walking. That's important because it allows your skeletal system, right, to have a good posture and to sit naturally as you were designed with no artificial platforms. In addition to that, it has a wide toe box. So oftentimes, especially with women, their shoes are designed to push their toes in just like that and get really tight and bound because supposedly that looks more aesthetically pleasing. Unfortunately, the reality is if you wear shoes like that over many years and decades, you will bound to have problems. Lots of knee problems, lots of balance and stability problems, putting you in a greater position to have knee pain and fall as a consequence of that. When your toes have room to move, you're going to have more awareness of the ground. Your brain's going to feel more connected to the earth, more connected to your movement. That's going to translate into better balance, better stability. The joints are going to be able to have room to move and to articulate and to feel that sensation, feel that movement. That proprioception is going to give your brain more confidence about movement. The more confidence your brain has about movement, the better your knees are going to feel. So we talked about zero drop, right? So basically being very minimal, zero arch support, minimal heel, having a wide base for your toes, and flexibility. So look at this. I could practically put my shoe in my pocket if I really wanted to, right? Be a little bit of a stretch. But look at how much more movement this has in comparison to the other shoe. Look at this shoe. Like I'm not trying to mess the shoe up, but I'm trying hard, a little bit of movement, but not much. Notice this heel. Notice underneath, right? Conforming toes. In comparison to this, look at all of that rotation, even through the ankle. Practically folded up, right? It's night and day difference. Again, I'm not promoting this shoe over that shoe, but the main thing is to get the right shoes that are going to help your knees feel and move better. So these kinds of shoes, they're called minimal or minimalist shoes, and they're great if you have knee pain because they allow you to feel the ground, move your toes, mobilize and open up the stiff joints within that area. It allows your soft tissue and your muscles to get stronger and more resilient. Your ankle is incorporated, so that has to work and learn to stabilize as well. The stronger your foot is, think about it as like your ground floor, right? If you have a strong foundation, then you're going to be able to build up on top of that. If you have a weak foundation, right, the second floor is probably not going to do so well, and so forth. So having strong, mobile feet are critical to having pain-free knees. All right, so now that we've talked about common shoes, common problems associated with them, I want to talk about what you could do in addition to buying better footwear. So there's a couple different things you could do. Number one, if you've been wearing conforming shoes for a long time, maybe you have a little bit of plantar fasciitis. One great tool that I really recommend a lot of people do is take a ball and just massage the bottom of your foot. Open up the tissue, open up the muscles, mobilize your joints a little bit, get that awareness that, oh wow, boy, those muscles feel really tight, really stiff, maybe a little bit tender. I haven't moved that at all for a long time. So beginning to kind of break up some of that lack of stability, that stiffness, those tight, tender muscles, that's going to be one of the first steps that's going to help your knees feel better. Foot feels really stiff and tight. Taking a ball, this is a lacrosse ball, it doesn't really matter what it is, golf ball, you can choose, and just kind of massaging, rolling out the bottom of your foot, making sure you get your arch. Ooh, okay, I haven't done this for a while. That feels tender. Ooh, that feels really stiff. You could go around your metatarsals. You try to open up some of your toes. And really just kind of massage and roll around the entirety of the bottom of your foot. And that's going to help open up some of those stiff, deconditioned muscles. It's going to give your brain a little bit more awareness of the bottom of your foot, and it's going to feel good. So if you have plantar fasciitis, if when you're doing this you notice that, ooh, that feels tender, that feels tight, that gives you more awareness that, hey, that's probably a little bit of a problem and I should prioritize this in some of the work that I'm doing at home to make my knee feel and move better. So very simple, one tool can take you a long ways. Okay, so another thing you could do is going to be really helpful, especially if you've been wearing really tight shoes that have had minimal space in your toe box. Maybe you have a bunion, maybe you have a hammer toe. You need to develop better mobility and structure within your toes. So you see these guys that I have. No, I don't paint my toenails. That's great if you do, but these are toe spacers, and these toe spacers allow you to get some separation in between your toes. So if you've been wearing those shoes that curl your toes in like that, you need to get some space. Get some space. The wider and the more separation you have within your toes, the more your foot is able to grip the ground. Having that awareness of the earth, of where you're moving, how you're moving, It's going to open up those joints, give you more stability, allow your brain to feel more confident about walking, hiking, your other activities that you like to do, and therefore you're going to have less knee pain. So if you have bunions, hammered toes, really curled in tight toes like that, getting some toe spacers, a couple of dollars on Amazon, super cheap. You don't need to have an expensive pair. But you could just wear these passively, walk around your house with them on a couple hours a day. They also have socks that have spacers in them. I haven't tried them, but I know some people who do and they enjoy them. But I just tend to use these once in a while, especially if I get like a little bit of an injury in my martial arts class. But you could just get these and again, wear them passively, walking around your place when you're watching TV, cooking dinner, whatever it is. You can also use these while you're doing some foot exercises. And we're going to talk about that next. Okay, so if I had to choose one exercise to help improve the range of motion in your toes and your foot, to help develop your arch, give you a little bit more strength, and to help mobilize the foot and ankle, I would choose a foot wave. So whether or not you have those toe spacers on, foot wave looks like this. It is a linear movement. So you can see I'm pressing my foot down, I'm curling my toes down. I'm raising my foot. I'm extending and trying to separate my toes. Pressing my foot down, curling my toes down. Maybe you're going to feel the arch kind of cramp, and that's okay. It just means you are a little bit weak down there and you haven't done this movement. The muscle isn't used to this, and you need to prioritize this in your routine. So if you see me from this angle, raising my foot, opening my toes, pressing my foot down, curling my toes. Raise the foot, raise the toes, press the foot down, curl the toes. So it's called a foot wave because once you get coordinated and have done it a few times, it begins to look a little bit like a wave. Another way you could do it is do the opposite movement. So I'm going to curl as I go down and then raise my foot and separate on the way up. So kind of like that. Toes down, foot up, foot down, toes up. Toes down, foot up, foot down, toes up. So really try to raise your foot and flex your foot as much as you can. Dorsiflexion up, plantar flexion down. So notice I'm not moving my leg, but I'm just moving my foot. And then you could try to do that maybe 10 reps per foot. And while you're doing this movement called the foot wave, pay attention to how do your toes feel. Do you have full range of motion? Are you able to roll your foot all the way up and press your foot all the way down? Does one side feel different than another? Maybe you'll notice that the side where your foot doesn't feel quite as mobile or that you have as much control over it on, maybe that's the side where you have knee pain. My left foot doesn't feel quite so good, and I also have pain in my left knee. All right, so just for us to wrap up today. So this week's video was focused on popular shoe wear and the common problems associated with them. And ideally, a different suggestion on what kind of shoes that will likely help you improve strength, improve mobility and awareness of your feet, which is going to translate into more stability, less pain and stiffness in your knees. And then if you've been wearing some of those problem shoes we've discussed, we also talked about what are some of the rehab ideas that you could do that are going to translate into a better knee. We talked about mobilizing the bottom of your foot, opening up some of those muscles and soft tissues and joints with a lacrosse ball or a ball of your choosing, like a little bit of a self-massage. We talked about wearing toe spacers or toe separators that allow you to begin to fix the bunion or the hammer toe that you may have, get some separation in those toes, which allow you to have more stability and feel when you're walking. It's going to help your brain have that brain-body connection so you feel more confident. Again, less pain in the knee. Then we also talked about one of my favorite exercises called a foot wave. And the foot wave is great because it incorporates a couple of different things. Not only are you moving your toes, right, and getting that awareness and that control and that mobility, but you're also moving your foot through a full range of motion, which is really important if your foot's been stuck in that cast, right, without being able to really move as it was designed to. So restoring that ability, restoring that function is going to be one of the critical elements that could be the missing link for why you've been struggling with this chronic knee pain and stiffness. All right, so hopefully you found this week's video helpful. If so, I always appreciate your support. If you could click the like button and subscribe to my channel, that's amazing. And if you're someone who's been struggling with chronic knee pain, maybe you've been told you have osteoarthritis, you have bone-on-bone deterioration within your joint, you may have tried steroid injections, PRP, physical therapy, and if none of that has worked and the pain seems to progress, I encourage you to check out a free training I have linked below, and it's going to explain really how this brain-pain connection can be the solution that you've been looking for. Pain is always a response from your brain when it feels a little bit threatened by your body. It doesn't quite feel like it's ready to go. And by improving the brain-body connection, you're going to be able to restore pain-free movement in your knees. So if you're interested in that, I encourage you to watch that video. And that's it for this week. I look forward to reading your comments in the comments section and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.